minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hershey, seconded by Ms. Price. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Nays, same sign. Motion passes. So our minutes are approved. And so now we will turn this over to Dr. Wilson Norman as we talk about empowering excellence. Yes, empowering excellence, aligning and expanding the access to arts. But before you get started, Dr. Wilson Norman, I must acknowledge the placemats that we've received and want to thank the students for making them. So now officially turn it over to you, Dr. Wilson Norman.
Thank you. Today we will explore the ways in which we are fostering excellence through the arts. We'll highlight the connections between our current initiatives and our plans to expand enrichment and co-curricular activities, providing key points of connections straight from our strategic plan. Our aim is not only to showcase the opportunities available for students to perform in the arts, but to also highlight the instructional programs and the learning opportunities that are provided to students through the arts. We will provide you today with supporting data, and I will be joined in this presentation with Drew Cook and Jeremy Tucker, who will guide us through today's presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you to provide the board and the community with an update on fine arts programming in the Wake County Public School System. We were looking back at the calendar. It has actually been 2 full years since we've come before the committee and provided an arts update, which is hard to believe. First of all, before we go any further, I do want to introduce, at least formally, because I believe this is the first time in this forum anyway, that Mr. Jeremy Tucker, I think I can still call him our new Director of Performing Arts in the Wake County Public School System, is joining us today, and we're thrilled to have him and his expertise and looking forward to the update that he provides today. But did want to call out a couple of things just in terms of our desired outcomes for the time together today, as Dr. Wilson Norman referenced. We always want to use this opportunity to showcase the alignment of this program with the rest of our work across the district. They are, we believe, mutually beneficial, and we know that a strong performing arts program is a strong school system. And Jeremy will share a little bit more about some of the data and research that shows strong correlations, as you well know probably by now, between arts participation, academic performance, school attendance, across the board, social emotional well-being. And so obviously our goal and aspiration, as outlined by the strategic plan, is to have more of our students participating in those opportunities where they're available. We also want to illustrate just the connections with our community. As you all know, we've got a thriving arts community. We're so fortunate to live in Wake County in the Research Triangle area with thriving arts programs in the community. And we'll highlight some of those partnerships and describe how we're tapping into those, both the district and also the school level. And we'll also outline strategies and systems to ensure equitable access, because I think it goes without saying, but we're going to say it. If we know that there is a positive correlation between participation in things like arts, then it's incumbent upon us to make sure all of our students are participating and accessing those opportunities so they can all reap the benefits. And so that's another purpose of today's conversation. And then at some point in time, you may grow weary of seeing these slides at the beginning of every presentation that you see. But we do think it's important to show the alignment of this work, specifically with our strategic plan, specifically aimed to around high-quality instructional core, around all content areas, of which obviously arts is a component. And we also, obviously, with AIM 8, are focused on high-quality instructional core and expanding access to programming, enrichment, and co-curricular activities. And Mr. Tucker will share both what happens during the instructional day in our arts programs and go into some level of data around participation and programming, but also talk a little bit about some of those extracurricular activities that we know are so vital to our students' experience. So with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Drew. Superintendent Taylor and members of the board, it's really an honor to be here to share and discuss with you the pivotal role that arts education plays within our district. I want to go back to priority number 1, where fine arts is designated as a core subject area, highlighting the importance of our educational framework, inclusive of arts education. We all here today are acutely aware of the profound influence that arts education plays on the holistic development of our students. The arts, I always want you to remember all 4 of these areas, include dance, music, theater, and visual arts. They serve as cornerstones for nurturing creativity, fostering critical thinking skills, and instilling cultural appreciation and social and emotional growth. Those content areas are instrumental in shaping well-rounded individuals who are equipped for success not only in their academic endeavors, but also in their personal and professional lives. During our time today, I hope we will delve into the multifaceted benefits of arts education while emphasizing its capacity to empower excellence among every student here in Wake County Public Schools. So thank you for your attention and your dedication to advancing arts education within our district, as well as prioritizing these supports for all 4 of these areas to make arts accessible to our students. I'm reminded of this quote by former U.S. Secretary of Education who noted, as you read this quote, I want you also to keep in mind again priority 1 in our district strategic plan. Think of today as a journey to unraveling the transformative power of arts. So moving on, in the fine arts domain, again, there exist 4 different content areas: dance, music, theater, and visual arts. We encompass those content areas in pre-kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade within our schools. Additionally, Wake County Schools offers courses in media arts that is supported through the Arts Education Department. On the left side, you'll see the North Carolina Arts Graduation Requirement. This is a timeline that was implemented in the fall of 2022 for our incoming 6th grade students. This policy aligns with North Carolina and also aligns with 27 other states that have the same graduation requirement for a diploma, for a high school diploma in North Carolina. Moving forward, as we delve further deep, it's essential to keep in mind the following. The arts hold official recognition as a core academic subject under Federal Elementary and Secondary Act. Further, in all 50 states, all states have adopted standards, all state departments have adopted standards for learning in the arts. Again, that highlights the crucial role in education. As I just reminded you, up to the right, if you look at that North Carolina map, look up to the right, you'll see that we have a mandated arts education requirement. And it's recently introduced, our General Assembly has recently introduced the Arts Diploma endorsement. We are waiting for further guidance from the Department of Public Instruction on how that will be implemented, but I do understand out in the streets that there will be a portfolio component for that endorsement. It's also important to note that we here at this table and in the broader community have the responsibility to provide standardized support such as pacing guides, curriculum maps, textbooks, and professional development opportunities across all 4 of those content areas. One thing to note, that North Carolina also is adopting new art standards next month. They'll be presented to the State Board of Education. So we'll begin implementing those with our educators starting next school year. Looking at the academic impact of arts education, we want to start by examining curriculum and program offerings. And it's important to note in this section that we'll talk about those offerings that happen during the instructional day. So we'll call extracurriculars those items that might include school musicals or other items that might engage our community. I'll come back to that. So if you look at this next slide, you can start with number 1, or the one on the left, with MIA. In Wake County, the Wake County Public Schools Arts Program is truly a beacon of creativity and collaboration. While you look at Mia, she's a student in one of our schools. She just wowed an audience at Arts in Action, which is supported by one of our community partners. She's supported by her family. Obviously, her family supports her with all those flowers they've given her. This event showcased the community's dedication to integrated arts experiences with families, teachers, and local artists all coming together to support our students. Partnerships, we move on to the next one, like Gifts of Gold with the North Carolina Museum of Art, provided students like Mia with an invaluable experience that extended beyond just the classroom. Moving on with Mia's journey through Wake County led her to dance, while others like Alex found their passion in pottery and Sarah excelled in theater. And there were also students like Jason, whose voice echoed through the community, spreading joy through song. And that's our last one. Together, all these students embody the spirit of Wake County Public Schools, each of them contributing their unique talents that celebrates the transformative power of creativity and community support. Each of these students, I want y'all to remember this, each of these students show up to school more and are always looking forward to these classes that are engaging. On our next slide, I wanted just to give all of you a general overview of courses that are offered across K-12 and arts education around the district. This is very general. Again, dance, music, theater arts, and visual arts. We know that in AIM 8 that it was written to ensure that every student has something during the academic school day that they look forward to. So think about tomorrow for those students we just looked at and what they're looking forward to going to tomorrow. In our pursuit of equitable educational structures, we delve into data from various sources like the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction's Arts Education Data Project and Quadrant Research. Here you can see K-12 arts enrollment. I want to just reiterate that these all show K-12 across all grade levels. So let's talk about each one of them for just a second. So I'm going to start with the top right. Dance. Around 3,500 students in grades K through 5 are enrolled in dance courses here in Wake County schools. Additionally, we have, 5,800, and additionally we have 3,500 in 6 through 12. So you'll see that's outlined in the blue for you. Skipping over to music, we have over 77,000 students in K-5 music classes and nearly 100,000 participating in music courses across all K-12 around the district. Notably, over 67% of students in high free or reduced lunch schools are enrolled in music courses. Moving down to theater arts, we have 4,400 elementary students and 5,800 secondary students that are enrolled in theater arts courses. And as we look at visual arts, we have approximately 77,000 K through 5 students that are part of visual art classes with a significant enrollment from schools with free or reduced lunch that reaches almost 71%. We see a little higher uptick in visual arts, and I think that's a residual from the pandemic, where we have begun to feel safer, and we see a big uptick in arts enrollment now that the pandemic is kind of over. So, research from Quadrant in Virginia and our friends at the Virginia State Department of Instruction highlights the positive impact of arts education on attendance rates, on absenteeism. It shows that students enrolled in 4 years of arts courses have significantly lower absenteeism, 32 to 50%. And that held true when looking at variables such as Title I status, race, ethnicity, and also our EL learners. And that's right at the bottom of this slide. This is a pretty powerful slide when we start to kind of delve into this. Looking at our next slide, how do we support those courses and those students? How we do that? One way is through incredible arts educators. And so within Wake County, we have 667 arts educators. This assembly comprises of around 285 elementary educators, 170 middle school, and 212 high school instructors. You can see that on that left graph. Additionally, we have approximately 600 singleton educators that contribute to the cause as well. And that's over on the right. There are 600 of them up there. I want to make sure we understand at the table what a singleton teacher is. Those are educators that teach a subject or maybe a grade level that is unique to that school. They may also be the sole instructor for a specific course or subject area, often requiring them to develop on their own specialized expertise in instructional materials. These educators, though, play an incredible, vital role in providing a diverse and comprehensive educational experience for every student in Wake County. Among these educators, we have 131, roughly, that specialize in secondary performing arts. And those are the ones, like I said earlier, that are offering extracurricular opportunities for students that extend past that instructional day. So, I want to point out these experiences are in addition to their regular teaching. We also see in our elementary and middle schools as well, many of our educators are extending experiences out after school. Professional development that these 600 Singleton teachers receive is truly critical, and those 600 educators are reliant on our district professional development from arts education. So I broke this down just a little differently so that you can see it in a different way, looking at educators and how many are in each content area. You can see both the grade levels that we have in each of the areas, and then you can see totally how many we have. Music and visual arts, we know that we have those courses once a week for 30 to 45 minutes at every elementary school. That contributes to the heightened number as well. And then when we start electives in 6th grade, you can see that we provide more of a personalized path for our students, so they're able to choose those courses. Yet ahead of us, we have a couple of challenges, and those include implementation of those new standards that are being voted on next month, orchestrating fine arts courses to align with student elective preferences in their secondary journey that also meet that North Carolina graduation requirement, and establishing high school arts diploma programs that meet as well. Wanted to talk briefly about our extracurriculars. Again, this is usually the fun stuff that you see more of, and that really engages our community. And I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have attended one or all of these events that you see in front of you. I know Dr. Taylor was with me at Les Miserables at Enloe, right there on the right, and there's the proof that he was there with me. Every secondary school in our district offers an after-school arts program. Let me say that a different way. So every single middle or high school in Wake County offers something after school in the arts. That's significant. So that ensures a widespread access to programs for students that engage them here right in our schools. Moreover, at the district level, we offer robust opportunities for participation, and they're listed below. And those include all-county elementary chorus, middle school band, Stars in the East, Pieces of Gold, and Gifts of Gold, which was held in partnership this year with the North Carolina Museum of Art. Was really proud of our department this year that we had over almost 198 pieces of art where every school was represented for the first time. And we had a night that was all about the visual arts, which sometimes was lost in other collaborative experiences. Here's the best part. So today I'm thrilled to highlight the professional development opportunities for our newest dance, music, theater arts, and visual arts educators. I can't wait for you to meet Kelly Ruska. She is one of our new secondary music educators at Neuse River Middle School. Also, I just learned that she is a proud graduate of Rollsville Elementary, East Millbrook Middle School, and Millbrook High School. Miss Ruska has been teaching chorus at Neuse River for 3 years. She also serves as the Fine Arts Department Chair and leads extracurricular music activities. She recently participated in our department's inaugural Beginning Arts Educators mini-conference. Her choirs have achieved notable success, including winning first place at Music in the Parks at Carowinds. At this Saturday event, new educators had access to very targeted sessions that were tailored to their specific needs and impactful to their classroom learning. Our professional development initiatives also focused on our teachers' well-being, critical area for all of our educators, but especially to those that are new in the field, like Ms. Ruska. She was part of our arts education leadership cohort, where she explored the Enneagram model to enhance teaching and identify personal strengths and foster growth. So without further ado, I want to welcome Ms. Ruska.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kelly Ruska-Karutz, and I'm a third-year beginning chorus teacher currently teaching at Neuse River Middle School, where I'm the department chair of a fine arts department made up of 4 other beginning teachers. As singletons in our buildings, like Jeremy was saying, who are all beginning teachers, having targeted content-specific professional development is vital to our growth. This April, like Jeremy said, I had the opportunity to attend the Beginning Arts Teachers Professional Development Day and to participate in that Beginning Arts Teachers Leadership Cohort. Our session was led by Ryan Deal, who is a life coach and an Enneagram specialist, who coached us through the 9 types of the Enneagram and how our type impacts our work as teaching professionals. Strong teacher preparation programs prepare us to plan effective instruction and to manage our classrooms, but learning how to navigate the professional relational landscape of a school can be a challenge for new teachers, especially those like me who enter leadership roles very early on in our careers. The personalized work with Ryan Deal allowed me to explore how I show up in my professional relationships with my colleagues and how I reflect on my teaching practices. The group session with other beginning arts teachers let me connect with and build working relationships with teachers all around the county. Opportunities for arts teachers to have targeted art-specific professional development have historically been difficult to access. This professional development experience allowed me to grow to better meet my students' needs, support my department, and most importantly, connect with my colleagues across the county who are facing similar struggles and similar growths as well. Arts teachers need specific targeted professional development because our work in creating arts programs is really, really different, but just as important as what classroom teachers are doing in their rooms. Support from the county level to pursue content-specific professional development is essential to our growth, and I'm thankful for the opportunities at Wake County that you guys have provided for us to be able to grow as educators. I thank you for all of your continued support in making these opportunities available to teachers, especially beginning arts teachers. This support can make a huge, crucial difference in retention, which is so important right now. Support like this is what encourages me to continue teaching Wake County. Like Jeremy said, I'm really proud to be a graduate of Wake County Public Schools, and I'm even more proud to call myself a Wake County Public Schools educator. So I thank you for all of your support, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ruska. She is a jewel, just like many of our beginning teachers are as well. So moving on to how we engage our community in collaborative efforts with our community partnerships. We know that that enhances our arts education landscape, but also gives us varied viewpoints, resources, and skills, culminating in enriching learning opportunities for students. So I wanted to just showcase a couple of our local, statewide, and national partners. You'll see entities like the Kennedy Center that we have a national partnership with, as well as the North Carolina Symphony, which all of you were instrumental in making sure that every 4th grader had the opportunity to visit Maimandi Concert Hall and attend a North Carolina Symphony education concert free. So thank you for that. And then I also want to just call out the partnership that we have with the United Arts Council here in Wake County. They engage teaching artists across all different areas, so dance, music, theater, visual arts. These are working professionals that go into our schools to provide more other experiences for our students to engage them in learning. And so next up, the next best part. This past year, in collaboration with our ELA department here in academics and central office, and in partnership with the United Arts Council of Wake County and Raleigh Fine Arts, 83 of our high school students from 21 high schools across the Triangle entered the first ever regional spoken word contest. All finalists were featured in a traveling poetry trail and traveled to different venues throughout the Triangle. This contest was created by our poet laureate, Dasan Anahu. Today, Superintendent Taylor and members of our board, it is an honor to introduce you to Ms. Jeanette Evans, who is a student at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy, and who will perform her spoken word composition for you. She was one of our finalists in this year's competition. She is joined by her principal, Mariah Walker, and her mother, Miss Juanita Williams McDonald. Would you please welcome Miss Jeanette Evans?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeanette Evans, and I am a rising senior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. I started WIWA in 6th grade and attended Swift Creek Elementary School. My plans following graduation are to work during the summer and to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. I plan to attend Bennington College in the fall of 2025 with a double major in music production and theater with a minor in psychology. I also plan to start my music career later this year. Writing to me has always been an outlet. When no one was there to listen, I could write it out. When my mind and mouth couldn't connect, I could write it out. When the weight of my emotions was too strong for me to carry, I could write it out. Ever since I was capable, putting a pen to paper has been one of the constants in my life, and spoken word is an extension of that. Writing things out is one thing, but there is a power to being able to make those words speak. When I read one of my pieces, I am not just speaking my mind, but rather revealing the corners that are often overlooked. The fusion of writing with spoken word has enabled me to pursue my interests and actively participate in school. Today I will be sharing my poem, Confessions of Them. I feel like I'm too much, but people keep saying, give more. I try vulnerability, but it's just oversharing. I feel overbearing. It's hard to believe that you're caring about me. I apologize for being cryptic about my struggles. I sold you a facade of honesty, not knowing that you would be close enough to know that, yes, I'm honest, but not about my insecurities. I'll not let you see as deep as I want you to. See, I'm not perfect, no, but I'm incapable physically of letting you see my inner disparity. I don't want you to worry, but I worry about you. Anxiety tells me I have no one to talk to. There's a chorusing, and constantly, no one will ever know you as well as we do, but it's just a quartet composed of disorders that lie to me, constantly. Consistency is something I wish I had. I wish I could give you the luxury of my complete vulnerability. You say that's what you want, but I don't think you realize what you're asking for. If I open the door to the inner workings of my mind, you will find the inner child that was broken at your hands to stand up and ask about what I didn't understand. Now my mind has expanded. I need to be respected. My mental health demands it. I speak for the child who couldn't. I scream for the ones who wouldn't. I laugh in the faces of those who didn't stand up for me, because now they get to witness the grow up. Because you decided not to show up, you don't get to be there when I blow up. I appreciate your contributions to my development. Your violence gave me the strength to endure pain. Your cruelty gave me the resilience to resist the stains of hatred. I have incontestable gratitude for the lessons I was taught. Just know that your classroom is not a safe space for me. And vulnerability isn't my area of study, yet I double major in compassion and empathy. My pen is my muse, she sings for me. I'm simply the mouthpiece for her retelling of my history. So if you meet me, please don't take offense if I'm not very open vocally. I can't help that my writing speaks for me.
Yes, all the steps, all the steps. Literally, all the steps.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. They have all of the spoken word finalists online, and I was when I saw her video, it spoke, and I had to get her here to share that with you so you can see what's happening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So according to Americans for the Arts, students with high participation in arts and low socioeconomic status demonstrate a dropout rate of only 4%, which is 5 times lower than their peers with the same socioeconomic backgrounds. I want to remind you about the research that I shared from Virginia's State Department of Education earlier, that 32 to 50% lower absentee rate of those that are enrolled in arts courses for 4 years. I want you also to think about what made those students come to school and what makes all of our students come to school. What's their point of connection, and what do they look forward to every single day? As we assess our programs, we all know here at this table it is crucial to identify any gaps. For instance, if a high school choral program serves around 25 to 30% of the student body, yet no program exists in the middle school level, there's an opportunity there to expand access to such programs. Ultimately, ensuring that our students have access to the high-quality, standards-based arts instruction during the school day really lies at the core commitment of arts education. And so to wrap up and to show you where we're going, I want you to kind of look at the journey that we're going to begin by developing a fine arts visionary framework that's going to align very deeply with our strategic plan. Look over to the left and you'll see that ensuring equity and access shows that we want to make sure that all students, regardless of their background or their location in our district, have equitable access to the highest quality arts education possible. We're going to outline strategies to address those disparities in arts resources and where there are opportunities to grow. We want to set clear goals in this framework. These goals will be aligned with our broader educational priorities and standards, ensuring that the arts are integrated into our overall educational mission which Jeanette just kind of was a living example of how crucial that is. We'll talk about allocating resources effectively, and we'll look at a plan that will help us allocate those resources, such as funding, staffing, and facilities, in ways that maximize the impact of arts education initiatives. We'll prioritize those areas of need and identify opportunities of collaboration or community partnerships that may help us leverage certain resources more effectively. As Ms. Ruska said, we'll also look at how we're supporting our educators professionally. Our plan will include provisions for professional development opportunities for our arts educators. Remember, there's over 600 Singleton educators. And we have the responsibility in our arts education department here at the district level to ensure that all of those educators have the knowledge, skills, and support that they need to deliver that high-quality instruction. We'll make sure that we're engaging diverse stakeholders when we develop this plan, and that'll include community arts organizations, students, parents, educators, and community members. We'll make sure that we're monitoring and our progress and also looking at holding ourselves accountable. So our plan will provide a framework, and we'll look at how we hold our stakeholders accountable for meeting our goals that we establish when developing this plan. Our plan will encourage innovation, creativity, and arts education, and will provide a roadmap for experimenting with new approaches, pedagogies, and technologies. Overall, Board, our framework will serve as a roadmap for advancing those 4 areas, which is dance, music, theater, and visual arts education within our district, while we promote equity, excellence, and access for every single student. It will help ensure that arts are recognized as a central component of a comprehensive education plan that prepares students for success in school, work, or life, which we already do here in Wake County, and that shows very highly in our strategic plan. This plan will outline our vision for the future while demonstrating tangible impact of our courses and our programs and extracurriculars that we offer our students. You can see over here in the middle what this timeline looks like and the upcoming steps in developing our plan, and we're really excited to get started on this Fine Arts Visionary Framework. And I just want to wrap up by saying we invite each of you to be part of one of our groups that are going to kind of examine and develop that plan. And that brings us to the end, and I'm happy to take any questions or conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, Mr. Cook, I think the 2 years was worth the wait just to see the great things that is happening. And I always appreciate the graphic that highlights how this is connected to the strategic plan and how we're moving the needle forward on addressing student achievement throughout the district. Student achievement is not just a individual district, but it's a county-wide thing. And I think we're doing a great job through our strategic plan of highlighting our gaps and being bold and courageous as we move forward with that. And to the students and to our educator, thank you for sharing your gifts and talents with us. And I look forward to the great things that both of you all are going to achieve in your throughout your life. And best wishes as you go out, Ms. Jeanette, and make us proud as Wake County's public schools. So with that, I will open up with any questions from my colleagues. Ms. Caulfield?
I think mine is more a comment. First, I wanted to say thank you both for coming out. I'm trying hard not to tear up while you were reading that. I mean, at my age, I would have never stood up in front of a room or even a classroom to do something like that. So thank you for sharing. It is really important. This was an awesome presentation, and some of the things that I took from it is we often talk about not all kids fit in the same box, right? And this kind of really points out how much variety and some of the facts that you provided with it, and that part about the absentee information, I feel like that should have its own slide. It's not just about, getting the kids to the class, it's about how they're engaging. And I think it really just says a lot for how, if we approach our children a little bit differently and think of it a little bit differently, how they might receive it. And especially after COVID, I feel like we are just facing so many different challenges and so many different boxes, so to speak. And I'm super excited about this. I know that just being a mom, attending our school events all the time, just seeing all the stuff that our children do in our community. I'm just super excited about all of this. And the other thing is, I know when I was first running, I had lots of conversations about, how our students hear the messages and how we approach them. And I think it's something for us to explore, and maybe for us to, as we evaluate all of this, it's also, how do we teach our kids to learn? May look different. It's not always we're teaching them how to learn it, but if we start teaching how they learn. Does that make sense? I'm saying that a little bit sloppy, but it really is, how do we grab their attention and approach them? And something like this just shows that there's so much more to just reading and math, and sitting down and taking a test, how we can incorporate all of this in there. So I'm very thankful that you brought this to us today, and I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you.
Audrey?
Well, something that I wanted to highlight, thank you again. I want to echo the good words. But one of the things I wanted to highlight is that using the arts as a way to cross communication barriers, I think is a very important key. When I came to the United States, I didn't know much English, but I was good at art, and that was a key that helped me to be part of the school, to excel at doing something. I didn't feel like I was, excluded because I didn't know English that much. So something to kind of, continue on the effort, I think that would be great.
Ms. Johnson-Hosset?
I don't know if Mom needs to hear this, but as a Gen Xer parent, having a child go into the arts who was completely supported by the district, it was hard for me as a parent to imagine that there was a life that wasn't in a structure and a profession that I understood. But it is courage and bravery of our young people like Jeanette, who are charting their own path. And so as a parent who just had a child who finished her first year post public high school, who is in New York working this week, which I could not have fathomed. As I look at Ms. McKenna, who also has a dancer, Dr. Martin gave me the courage to push through my own fears of what I thought their career should look like. Your bravery was clearly on display here. So when you drop your first track, you make sure Ms. Walker sends it to the board, and we all should be purchasing your first song because that's also us investing in your future. And so those are my encouraging words to you, Mom, because I needed them literally a year ago sitting in this place. Because it's just hard to wrap your head around. We're like, didn't you want to be a dance teacher? So hats off to you. And Mr. Tucker, again, my daughter had the privilege of having a first-year teacher teach her how to play the viola, which she continued to play because of her first-year BTE at East Milford Middle School, who now actually teaches orchestra at Roseville High School. Yes, Ms. Lucas, who was also a Diane Kent Parker winner, but that mattered. And one of the things that she said to me is, being a singleton and figuring out what the support means. I call it the politics of a school building, which is not something you learn, so thank you for speaking to that, and thank you for acknowledging that our educators also have to figure out how to lead. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about for years is giving our educators the space to lead from where they are, whether it's leading in the middle. Everyone doesn't have to be an administrator, and I think you're well on your way to doing that. So having fully feel invested still into Ms. Lucas as someone who changed my daughter's life. It made a huge difference, as educators do, but thank you for supporting them and keeping them in the profession. And thank you for sharing that with us today. And again, thank you, Chair, for making sure that we hear these amazing spaces. And I would be remiss, Jeanette, if I didn't tell you, I won't speak for Ms. Rice, but your words spoke volumes to me personally. They resonate in such a profound way. And so I think you know that the words that you're willing to share changes other people's lives, and you did that today in a very short time. So I can't wait to hear what's next for you. And then I sent the whole board all of the updates. Dasan Hanu is a dear friend of mine, so if you haven't watched and followed his work, please do, because he's done an amazing job with our students.
So she spoke for me, and she was correct. But, yeah. All I can hear is double major in my brain, right? That's all I can hear. It spoke volumes to the work that I do professionally, to what I echo and try to say a lot around well-being with our students. And I just think that this just needs to be in every classroom, just your words, to remind students who can read to read this, and even for our educators, just to be reminded these are how our students might be feeling. And not only that, this is how our teachers might be feeling. That's right. And our staff. So I just want to echo, super proud of you. I could just do this all day on you. Thank you so much for sharing your work and your life. I'm just looking forward to hearing the great things you've done.
I just want to say, Jeanette, continue to be brave and be bold, and we just can't wait to see what you accomplish in this world. And Ms. Ruska, department chair in year 3, speaking of being brave and being bold and stepping up into spaces, I was a singleton teacher myself in a different discipline, but it's hard, and it's hard to get other teachers to feel like their curriculum can connect with yours, and especially with the arts. You can do that very easily. And so just keep going, and and the students don't even have to like the subject area. I had one of my daughters was in dance. She admits that she is not going to pursue the arts in New York in that manner.
She did call,
but she loved her dance teacher, and she showed up every day because of the person that was in the classroom and not necessarily the subject. I mean, she did do it, but it was a little more reluctantly.
Completely understand that.
Yeah.
My high school teacher had the same impact on me. He still teaches at Millbrook today, Eddie Adams. Incredible individual who changed my life completely. So
That's great.
I understand.
Well, I would just say, I echo everything that my colleagues have said. I also think it's important that you have strong leaders that are investing in our teachers, such as Mr. Tucker and such as Principal Walker's investing in our students, for them to be bold and to lead and to dare to do things differently than how it was presented to them. And so this is great. I think, Mr. Tucker, next year when you come back, you have set the bar very high.
So we have to sing it.
That's right. I like it. And dance.
Y'all will join me in that chorus. Thank y'all so much for your time.
Thank you.
I just want to note, Mr. Response to that, Dawn didn't bring little people, but she brought bras.
Yes. Yes.
As we think about our next presentation, in the realm of academic advancement, it is critical to establish connections with families, child care centers, and community agencies to ensure that our students start strong. Our goal is to provide a robust foundation as students enter kindergarten, transition into 6th grade, and make plans for post-secondary education. We want them to start strong as they leave us as well. And so what we do from the beginning is very important. We recognize that for students to start strong, we must begin by building strong relationships even before they join us. Today, we will revisit one and some of the actions and discussions from our presentation last fall. We will focus on initiatives to increase market share and continue to deepen our relationships with families, child care centers, and preschool teachers, specifically around kindergarten readiness. We will highlight some of the progress monitoring data for our pre-K students and share impact of some of our readiness activities. As we outline our desired outcomes, we will detail the services for pre-kindergarten children and their families. We will also share the current state, including the number of classrooms, where they're located, and additionally, we will celebrate our partnerships and outline the next steps to further our goals. This comprehensive approach will ensure that all stakeholders are aligned and that our youngest learners receive the support that they need to thrive from the start and start strong. And so we think about, again, our alignment to our strategic plan. Our pre-K programming and our kindergarten readiness really focuses on AIM 8, instructional core for student areas. And as we think about how we support our students as they enter our school district, it really is focused on how we support them along the way so that they graduate on time and that they're prepared to start strong as they begin their post-secondary careers. That as we think about the continuum, pre-K really has a deep aspect as we think about our third grade reading scores. And so as we really look at readiness, our connections with child care centers and the work that we do early on, it really is about students starting strong.
Well, we do hope you enjoy the placemats. Thank you for acknowledging those. And they are from students at the new Early Learning Center. And you'll see that they say thank you on there because they wanted to really thank you for your support over the years and the fact that we were able to open a center like that. So I hope you will enjoy those. We are excited to share our services today with you. This is a wonderful opportunity for us. And we are going to begin by providing a high-level overview of our services in general, and then we're going to dig deeper into pre-K, and then we're going to move into transition to kindergarten. So the first you'll see, our department is really made up of 3 areas. You'll see Project Enlightenment, preschool programs, and the Early Learning Center that I just referenced. And Project Enlightenment, many of you are familiar with this, but it really does focus on families, caregivers, more community, birth through age 5. So there's a variety of programs. There are 2 classrooms there, but a variety of services that are focused more on families, we would say, and caregivers. Versus preschool programs is direct services to students. So our Title I pre-K, special education, our evaluation teams that are comprehensive to identify students for special ed services fall under preschool programs, and that is targeted at ages 3 to 5. So that's the difference there. And then, of course, our new Early Learning Center that opened this fall is our first freestanding center, has the 8 pre-K classrooms, evaluation team, speech services, and again serves children ages 3 to 5. So you'll kind of see the spectrum going all the way from birth and community all the way to direct service. So many of you already know this, but just as a reminder, so there is numerous research studies over decades that really do identify the positive impact on children when participating in high-quality early learning programs. And I emphasize high quality because that's really important. It can't just be any program. It needs to be a high quality with certain components. But some of the things that those studies have shown, these students are more prepared to be successful in elementary school, but also less likely to be retained in school later, which is a big thing, as well as higher rates of high school and college graduation. So all those are things that we're really proud of, and decades of research have shown that. And I know that you know as well that there are a lot of federal and state mandates related to some of this work, specifically around special education. But one that I really wanted to highlight is the fact that Child Find really does require that all school districts locate, evaluate, and identify and serve all children with disabilities, which includes ages 3 to 5. And oftentimes, some of the people in the community don't realize that even children ages 3 to 5, we are required to serve as a school district. So with that kind of overview, we're now going to transition to Jenna Ramsey, who is our Director of Preschool Programs, and she's going to delve further into that specific area.
Well, greetings. Thank you all for allowing us to be here today. As we look at our data, we celebrate the consistent growth and progress that our students are making each school year. noting that the majority of our students are demonstrating growth within the expected growth range. So what you're looking at are data displays that address the percentage of children meeting or above target growth range by age according to the developmental domains that are seen here in pink. So when we're looking at both the 3-year-old data, which is in blue, and the 4-year-old data, which is in green, we see that the greatest growth areas are in the areas of literacy and social emotional development, which directly aligns with the professional learning goals of both the district and our department over the last several years. This includes our preschool pyramid model and also our recent letters training. So this map will show you where our classrooms are located. We currently have 180 classrooms within our elementary schools. And you can see the breakdown here of the different types of programs. Our blended Title I Pre-K and NC Pre-K programs are considered our regular early childhood programs. So these are our inclusive programs. Our blended classrooms serve 6 children with disabilities and 9 children who have been identified through the Title I application process. Title I Pre-K serves students with high academic need. So there is a shared application between NC Pre-K, Head Start, and the school system. A student is screened, and then there is also a parent survey. And this is used to rank order students so that we are serving the students in our community with the highest academic need, the greatest need. NC Pre-K serves students that are meeting income eligibility, 200% of the federal poverty line, and also qualify for Title I based on academic need. Our other programs are our self-contained programs, our special education preschool classrooms, which are there to serve children that do require that small student-to-teacher ratio in a self-contained setting. I do want to mention we also have some enterprise programs which serve children in our community whose families pay tuition. We have those locations at Kingswood, Project Enlightenment, and then 2 programs, one at Lacey and Wiley, that are specifically there for students to have peer models. The students that are identified as children with disabilities are children with hearing impairments. So this allows them that peer model. Over the last several years, we have seen an average annual growth of 11% of an increase in students served. Our special education data indicates a 21% increase from students from December 22 child count to December 23 child count. So that is a large increase for us, and we have continued to increase over the past decade. When we think about our child find referrals and eligibility coming in from the community, children that are suspected of having disabilities, we've had an average increase in quarters 1 and 2 from last year to this year of 16.5%. So we can see that our numbers continue to rise. Our classroom capacity is 2,848 students. And currently we are serving, when we think about all of our students in classrooms, itinerant and speech, 3,400 students. So these figures, as you can see, suggest significant growth in the needed services, particularly in the area of preschool special education. This is our revised 5-year plan. Some of you have seen this before. We've presented this to the county commissioners and the Board of Education in previous years. Due to current budget priorities, the 5-year plan, as you can see, has been adjusted, pushed back 1 additional year for us to continue to make room for more students. So you can see our revised plan on the bottom of this chart and an outline of all of our programs and what we anticipate opening. And now I will turn it over to Kylie Brown, the Director of Project Enlightenment.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. It is so important that we share that the Office of Early Learning truly values our relationship with community partners. So today I'm going to provide a high-level overview of Project Enlightenment services, and then we'll dig deeper into what those partnerships look like. So Project Enlightenment has been around since 1969 and has offered services for families with young children and early childhood educators for over 50 years. Today I will share a few examples of some of our components. One example that's important to note is that our Parents as Teachers program is actually a nationally recognized home visiting program that is evidence-based, and it really helps support children from the time that the family is pregnant all the way through that child's kindergarten entry. It's important to note that the program really helps to boost student achievement and also helps with child development through parent education. This year alone, our Parents as Teachers parent educators have conducted 1,897 home visits. 73% of participating families are Hispanic and 12% are African American. The other service that I would like to highlight today is our teacher-parent consultants. Teacher-parent consultants have a key role in ensuring that our early learners can remain enrolled in their child care centers. We have served 434 students this year across 156 child care centers in Wake County. In addition to offering individual child consultations, our teacher-parent consultants also work with early childhood educators through whole classroom consultations. I will now turn it back over to our Senior Director, Don Dawson.
Thanks, Kylie. All right, so you will see our department does a lot of collaborating with our community partners. Because of our audience being birth to age 5, that's essential to our work. So you'll see here that this is just a sampling of some of our partners, but you'll see Wake County Libraries with the Craft and Learn. You'll also see Wake Up and Read, Wake County Smart Start, and the East Wake Education Foundation. Those are just to name a few. Two of our closest partners are really NC Pre-K and Telamon Head Start. We are in a very tight collaborative with them called Wake Pre-K. So they are essential to our work. We have the same common application that Jenna mentioned earlier. So we do a lot of events with them and collaborate together to really build our capacity. Another strong partner is Marbles Kids Museum. We have worked with Marbles Kids Museum over the years. We collaborate with them on Family School Partnership Days as well as our Ready Set School program. So they are definitely another essential partner to us. And speaking of, many of you have probably heard of this, Kickoff to Kindergarten. So this is a major event in our community for families when their children are going to kindergarten. And it's much loved by the families as well as our community partners. But so for some of you who haven't had a chance to go, when families are attending, the families get to board a school bus. They get to serve themselves lunch. They get to participate in an interactive story time. They also get to experience what a PE or music class might be. They also will get to ask questions of principals and kindergarten teachers, which is definitely a hit. And so that is something that is very positive. There are also resource tables there from community partners so that while families are there, they can walk around and gather other information as well. If you want to mark your calendars and are interested in participating this year, the year-round session is Thursday, June 20th from 3 to 7, and the traditional is Saturday, August 17th from 9 to 5. And this is another, many of you know about this as well, Letterland. Sarita was there last night working at Letterland. This is another event that families really enjoy. The events and activities are actually being held this week at Pullen Park. You'll see the dates and the times located there. But students really love the characters, they love exploring the park, and at the same time while they're doing this, they're building their literacy skills as they walk around and do the story walks, interact with the characters and so forth. So with that, I would like to shift it to our valued colleague in this work, Sarita Smith, which is our Senior Director for Elementary Regional Achievement and School Support.
Thank you, Dawn. Good evening, everyone. As you can see, Dawn and her team provide strong support to children and their families, and as these families transition to kindergarten, we want to ensure that at the elementary level that we're providing similar support. So as families are transitioning to kindergarten, we do collect some school readiness data, and the way that we do that is through the registration process, in which we have survey questions that we ask families. These questions are related to preschool attendance and the frequency at which children have been read to. So if you look at the first graph, you can see that there is a strong correlation between preschool attendance and the frequency in which children are read to. 90% of our families who had students that attended preschool indicated that this child was read to daily or 2 to 3 times per week. When we look at that same data point for our kindergarten students of this current year who did not attend preschool, only 64% reported that they were read to daily or 2 to 3 times a week. When we think about the length of time that our students are spending in kindergarten, if we look at our current cohort of kindergarten students, 43% of them attended preschool more than 2 years. 23% did not attend preschool, and then around 17% attended 1 to 2 years. When we look at the frequency that a child is read to, and we don't delineate by whether they attended or did not attend preschool, we notice that about 55% of average, our families are indicating that the child was read to daily or at least 2 to 3 times per week. And then finally, when you think about preschool attendance, 78% of our current kindergarten students had some experience with preschool, while only 22% on average reported that they did not have any preschool attendance. So as a district and with the Office of Early Learning, we have worked to clarify the kindergarten readiness expectations to ensure that there's uniformity across the district. And so we created this flyer that we share with each enrolling family as well as with child care centers across the district. And we really wanted to focus on the 5 domains of learning and development. These are domains that the preschool teachers collect data on and that we continue to collect data on during the kindergarten year. So we're looking at things like health routines, positive approaches towards learning, language development, general knowledge, health, and physical development. So as we think about market share and being intentional with our recruitment of prospective families, we have employed several key strategies, and I'd like to highlight a few of those strategies at this time. Kylie has already spoken about our early learning services that's provided through the Office of Early Learning. We also collaborate at the elementary level by offering ready-to-learn centers, and this affords elementary schools the opportunity to engage with families of children who are as young as 18 months old. We also have great public awareness and support where we're sharing information to families and brochures through social media, websites, digital community flyers. There are parent workshops that are offered to help parents with school readiness that are offered at no cost. And then we continue to have internal and external partnerships. Dawn has highlighted some of those partnerships already. And a few that I would like to highlight is our partnership with Student Assignment as they go out regionally to offer registration fairs. Someone from academics attends to help parents with school readiness, give them ideas of things that they can do to make sure their kids are off to a great start. Also, the Office of Magnet has family engagement parent groups, and we also work with them to promote the idea of school readiness. We will continue to investigate additional avenues so that we can engage prospective families.
So I think some of the questions have been in the past about how are we engaging with community child care centers to aid in readiness and transition. So some of the things that we do, annually we share information packets regarding our services to child care centers throughout the community. Teacher-parent consultants, some of the that was already referenced by Kylie, itinerant teachers that was referenced by Jenna. They work with centers in the community and they provide this information as well when they go out. They also offer free workshops. So there's a lot of access to information that we are actually going into child care centers and providing a level of support. We also offer free workshops to teachers in general, child care directors, and families. That has been something over the last couple of years that we've really increased our free workshops to these groups. Like an example that I would like to highlight is something that we do with our partners when I was talking about Wake Pre-K and Telamon Head Start and NC Pre-K. we do a session with the NC Pre-K directors about transition to kindergarten, and it includes student assignment, it includes our department, and it also includes the Magna office. So we really do try to provide a comprehensive opportunities for these directors in centers to ask questions and to get a better understanding so that they can go back and share their teachers and the families at their center. So that has been something that has been very successful for us, that we started maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe even longer than that. It was longer than that because we would do them in person, and then we started moving towards some virtual during COVID. So that has been very successful. Another example of a transition activity is community and district pre-K teachers that are NC Pre-K also share Teaching Strategies Gold transition report with kindergarten teachers. So that is something that Wake County has been doing internally for years, I would say 5 to 6 years, but the DPI really liked our idea, and so they also started doing that and put it in a more systemic approach at a state level for NC Pre-K. So that is another thing that is a transition activity so that a kindergarten teacher has information from that pre-K teacher already when that child enters school.
So there are a few other ways that we want to highlight on how we engage families and communities, and we do want to recognize the efforts of the communications department that really helps out with kindergarten registration, with their promoting of registration through social media, community newsletters. This year, we kicked off registration back in October for the 2024-25 school year. They also do a great job of keeping the information on our website updated. Our elementary schools chime in through sponsoring open houses and school tours for prospective families to come in, view the school, and get a sense of what a day in the life of a kindergarten student may look like. And finally, communications provides a list to principals at the elementary level of families who have kindergarten-age students who have not yet registered, so that they can reach out personally and offer a personal touch to those families.
So we're really excited about this new opportunity. This will be the first year that we are holding an early learning summit with district pre-K teachers and kindergarten teachers. You'll see it here this summer in July. We've been recruiting those teachers over the last couple of months, and this is an opportunity to really create some partnerships and some vertical alignment. And at first, it will really start internally with our school district pre-K teachers and kindergarten teachers. We want to learn from the experience, but then our goal is really to expand this by working with Wake County Smart Start and have child care providers, NC Pre-K teachers, and others in the community also participate so that we do have more collaboration and alignment with those centers in the community and our kindergarten teachers.
We are super excited about this event and the collaboration between our two teams, and we are dedicated to a continued and renewed commitment for students to start strong.
Questions?
Thank you all for diving into this for us. I see a couple of hands. Dr. Ean, Mr. Hershey, and then Chair Hager.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And just from my personal experience, this is kind of flashback. But one of the most stressful things for our children with special needs is, and for the parents, is the toilet training. And what's your expectations and what kind of help are available to help the parents in terms of that transition?
I'll let you speak to expectation, and then I'll talk about one of the opportunities related to Triple P that we have.
Yeah. So we do not have an expectation that students come to us in any sort of way, right? We meet students where they are. Our teachers are very skilled and trained on knowing how to do that direct instruction that really scaffolds a skill like toilet training to be able to equip students and families for moving forward with that skill and executing that skill. So our teachers know how to do that. They partner very closely with families to make sure that the family is also ready to take on that adventure for that specific specific skill that you noted, and then they move forward with a plan. And so it's one of the things our teachers usually find great success in and can move a child forward into kindergarten in many, many cases, toilet trained. So, yeah.
And another opportunity or program that really would support that, Triple P, Positive Parenting Program, is something that we house at Project Enlightenment. It's an evidence-based program, but there's a variety of levels, and some of them are really intense, like intense counseling, and others are simple as a tip sheet and just talking in a group. And like one of the tip sheets is an example of what you just described. So there's all types of tip sheets. So Triple P is another opportunity for just in general, even someone necessarily may be struggling with that, a family, that Triple P is where they could reach out as well.
A couple questions. Since it's budget season, can you just talk about where the funding comes from?
Sure. We also receive some NC Pre-K funds. A number of our students, and you saw one, dually qualify. So, but because we have that shared application, we have information about their income, and so we're also able to look at that, and we receive funds for those students who qualify for NC Pre-K. So Title I, NC Pre-K, we also have special ed, and there's a variety. Where's Jill? Jill was in here. It's federal, state, and local for special ed, and we do have some local funding over the years that we've received. So it really is a variety, and we really try to be creative with that so that we are really efficient, and we really prioritize staff, meaning teachers and IAs, because of the need.
So who should we be asking for more funding?
Everybody.
Everyone. Because we use such a collaborative pot to fund it.
And so I didn't intend for this to come up at the moment, but does Wake County use its collective voice to advocate for funding at all levels?
So I definitely think that we do that with federal funds, with Title I, and we partner a lot, as mentioned, with Smart Start to really advocate, and they do a lot of advocating on behalf of all school systems. The Partnership for Children at the state level, they really do a lot of advocating for that, because what that means, if we're able to get additional funds at the state level, then it does come down to counties, and our local Wake County Smart Start could provide more NC Pre-K slots for us, because that is an example of an opportunity where we turn around and use those funds that we get from NC Pre-K to add more classrooms.
Last question, I think. You had a 5-year plan. Why do you end at 5 years? Or how far out are you projecting, maybe internally? And in those, as you plan and you look for space, how active are you, or how is facilities involved in this planning to provide you all with space?
Absolutely, great question. So we call it a 5-year plan, but we update it every year. Like, we update it every year, and we look at, like Jenna said, we look at birth rates, we look at density, like we have these density maps of showing ages 3 to 5 and where they are, the pockets. We also look at our child fund information. It's we get information from Wake County Smart Start, so it's a variety of information that goes into those decisions. We meet multiple times a year with facilities to determine, it's actually Marcella Rory is who we meet with long-range planning, and we also meet with special ed, with someone on Jill's team, Pam Doak, and we really do, we plan it out and we look at facilities, because I would say this was about 7 or 8 years ago when the plans for an elementary school did change, and we were able to agree that every new or renovated elementary school would open with 2 pre-K classrooms. So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So we really do have, and we keep an elaborate spreadsheet with Marcella, and we also keep an internal one, because we do oftentimes have principals who say, I really would like a pre-K class, an additional pre-K classroom at my school. We look at all types of information before making that decision. How many kids are already applying for that base school? Is that an area where we need those services? So we're continuously looking and reviewing that, and we review that data and analyze it every year.
I just want to point out the importance of you and your staff, and sometimes from outside voices we hear that central services can be bloated or whatever, because I think people don't really understand the vital role you play. And so I just want to give voice to that, and just, this wouldn't exist without not just the teachers, but without the central services staff that we have in place. And I want, this is for some of the outside voices that say this about us, they need to understand that you all are real people doing real serious work to the benefit of all of these kids. And I just want to give voice to that whenever we can.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Chair Hager?
Thank you. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the Early Learning Summit, because that sounded something really exciting. Specifically, when you talk about establishing partnerships countywide, what sort of institutions or entities or individuals are you talking about in terms of partnerships? What do these look like, and who should attend this summit?
So for this year, it'll be internal with our school system, but our goal, we've already started to plant the seed with Wake County Smart Start. Like, I've already started that conversation, putting a plug in, saying this is what we would like to work toward. We're doing it in-house right now, so they are also thinking about that, because that's where there's a lot of power in that. If we could get our partners, and we're talking about licensed and not licensed, is what we would really like some family home child providers. Like, we really want that to be more comprehensive. It's just going to take time for us to scale up, and we want to learn from the first experience, and get some feedback from all of the participants to see what was successful, what wasn't. But that, I would say Smart Start, because and DCDEE, because they also are very knowledgeable about all of the child care. So those are the two agencies that we would work through to have that.
I am just blown away with all the partnerships. And I know this in my head, and then every time I hear it again, I'm like, oh my gosh, we do so much for so many. I'm curious, because we have so many students where either their families are moving in, or all of a sudden their child turns 4 and they're like, oh my gosh, kindergarten is coming. What kind, I'm looking at the kindergarten readiness page, and I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could give this to pediatricians or even to realtors who are moving in? We're already doing that?
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Oh my gosh, I should know.
Well, we already do this with pediatricians.
Yes.
Pediatricians, we already do this. Every year, annually, they get a packet of all of our services, whether it's Project Enlightenment, Child Fund, the Off to a Good Start. Every pediatrician in Wake County, they do already receive the packet.
Excellent.
So we are covered with that. Real estate, we do have some partners that have been sharing some of that. NC Reeds and Mr. Fletcher, for example, because of his relationship with realtors.
Surprise.
We have a really close relationship with him. He's been advocating for our Ready for K texting program, for example, and sharing some of that with realtors. And so we do have some partners in our community who have been doing some of that work as well. But the pediatricians we cover.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Rice, you have a question?
I'm excited. I've been a huge champion about early childhood education since I came in the education space, and that was my starting partner. So she reminded me of that when she came in today. And so all I can say is kudos to the work of the foundations of years ago when we started, when Educations and Excellence Act came out, right? And we had to figure out how to connect to families, and you've done an outstanding job over the past 20 years. It's been phenomenal. Just really excited about what I'm seeing, where we've arrived to today, and just the fact that you have been on the ground doing this for years, right? I don't know if people know it. I know you guys are hearing it for the first time, but Donovan Nunes worked for years.
It's a team
right?
effort.
Well, I didn't know the team back
Yeah,
then.
I'm just saying it's a team effort. I want to make sure we know it's a team effort
It
here.
is a team effort, but I have to give kudos to where
Sweet.
kudos are due, right? Because as the director of early learning, you heard my voice years ago sitting on the committee with you in the work that we were doing and really trying to help families understand and cooperating and sharing resources with me to share out into all the regional centers of Wake County. And I hope that's the other space. I'm sure you've been doing work in it, but that other space to target, and one of the things that was very dear to my heart, and I still say it today, it is the prenatal space. And one of the things that I would say to moms, and I still say to this day, as a way to help moms prepare themselves for their children, I said, I just need you to take 20 minutes a day to put your feet up and just read a magazine, right? And that's me helping them program their mind to get ready to read to their child for 20 minutes every day from birth to 5, a minimum of 5 books. So I'm saying that so the public and community here to build that vocabulary, because when we support, as Mr. Hershey was saying, if our county and everybody understands, if we support early childhood education, it changes the game on everything. We don't have to worry about what score is going to say at 3rd grade, BOG scores. We don't have to worry about it because we know it's going to be there when we train parents on what kindergarten readiness actually looks like. It is possible. And you can do it as simple as $1 a month. From a Dollar Tree, getting a simple little the posters that they have, right, Don? A simple poster. And teach your child basic things. If you yourself have over 3rd grade education, you can actually prepare that child and let great programs like Early Office of Education and Smart Start do the rest to fill in those gaps. But thank you. Kudos to the amazing work that you all have done.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson-Austin?
I certainly echo all those kudos. Not all of you know, but John know I came on to the board because all the data supports in my day job that if we start at birth, children are less likely to be violated physically, both sexual abuse and physical abuse. And so that is literally how I landed into the education space, is trying to change the outcome of children's futures starting at birth. And it's exactly what you just said. So Triple P was a baby of mine that you brought on probably a year of my space on this board, which we spend a lot of time in the sexual violence prevention world promoting. So I'm grateful that we kept that work up. And as I was mouthing to Mr. Hershey, I just came off of the state Smart Start board where we do lobby, but I am here to say that a space that we do live in that is on our legislative agenda is the number of kids who are coming to us earlier with more special education needs is a legislative priority for us. And we most of us probably think about it in our K-12, but it also speaks to the work that we have to have more funding to address the complex needs of our kiddos as soon as they come to us, and hopefully they're coming to us earlier and earlier through all of our programs. So I wanted, Mr. Hershey's not in here, but the federal and state manages itself because they're lobbyists at both of those ends who do that work specifically for early childhood, but there is a space that we also have a place on our legislative agenda. So I just wanted to tie the bow on our work in this space as well.
And Ms. Johnson, also, as we learned through this as fellow Hunt Institute policy cohort members, you were the first cohort, I was the last cohort, and they had an entire session about the importance of early childhood education. When you start early, the data shows the improvement. And just to lift up the great work that you all are doing, at last school visit, I was at Kingswood Elementary School. Some of their student ambassadors who were pre-K students bragged about the fact that they started at pre-K and how that pre-K experience changed their lives, and the great work that they were doing in encouraging us to continue to invest, and there's 5th graders, to continue to invest in early childhood education. So the data works, the data's out there, we just need a friendlier legislative body that will help support this great work. Ms. Caulfield, sorry, you all are just looking, I was like, is that a question? I didn't want to force it.
Listening, but yes. So I always believe that knowledge is power, and it's never too early to start. And your slide 18, where you show the impact and at the level of if you read once a week, several times a week, and I just remember it's been a long time since my kids were in that little space, but just the impact that it would have. They were excited to go to bed because they knew Mom was going to read this many books, and then the back tickles, and we did the whole routine. But it was the books that actually got them excited, and as they started to learn, then they wanted to read to me because they wanted to be the big boy, So just to see that right there, that chart is amazing to show how important the work is that you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Wilson, for bringing this topic back before this committee. And it's always a pleasure to learn more and how we can partner. And in the words of Dr. Taylor, level up, even with our young kiddos.
We need to start making that a bumper sticker.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to that my husband was he is a very good, so he can't say that. But he has not been sick and he is a problem. If you sick, I'm like, I'm gonna tell him, like, you must be right. You sleep with me, you not sick. So you must be a superior human. And I don't want to tell him that. So I need
Get
to
to
try to
dive
figure
into
out.
our most important topic.
We are at our final presentation, and with driver's education, we are committed to continuous improvement. Today, we will highlight some of the efforts that we have made and others that we're going to enhance opportunity and access to the behind-the-wheel portion of driver's education. Drew Cook will update us on our status and our short-term goals for improvement. He will also share success stories since our last presentation, and this discussion will focus on how we've addressed challenges and how we're making progress.
You said this for last?
Yes. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Cook at this time.
I know, right? We're just gonna, can you just answer all of the emails that are in my inbox one by one?
We can, maybe not in the next 30 minutes, but we certainly will do our best. So first of all, we do want to acknowledge and recognize this is a kind of a follow-up discussion. If you'll recall, in this committee back in August, we shared with you kind of a comprehensive overview of our driver education programming in the district. I think you all know and recognize we won't need to go back and share that overview all over again, but we contract with Jordan Driving School, which, by the way, my understanding is they have been contractors with us in the Wake County Public School System since 1992. So I don't know for certain, but that's got to be one of the longest continuously serving contractors in the district in terms of contracted services. I do want to point out significantly an error that was made in the Preces document. If you'll go into Assembly and take a look, it has since been updated and corrected. Apologies for any confusion that may have occurred, but this is not a discussion about a specific contract amendment. We assured the board back in August that before any contract discussions would be had about renewals for 24-25 or additional contract, supplemental contracts that we might decide to engage in, we would engage in some conversation and share this update beforehand. So we regret that error. It has been corrected. So if you reference the revised Preces document that's right next to the presentation in Assembly, you'll see the corrected one that does align with the presentation. So I just wanted to call that out for the board's reference. I will, just real quickly, I do want to introduce a couple of folks at the table, as Dr. Wilson Norman referenced. First, many of you probably know and recognize Delinda Ramirez Carter, who is our Director for Co-Curricular Programs, and you may be thinking, well, why is she at the table to talk about driver education? I do want to point out and mention that consistent with the restructuring that we've been engaging in our academics department, co-curricular programs now houses driver education underneath it. And so just like performing arts, athletics, career and technical education, combined with co-curricular programs, those 4 now report directly to the assistant superintendent. That's the reason that Ms. Ramirez-Carter is here today, and I think you all know from our past conversations, Devin Tanner, our senior administrator for driver education at the district level. So with that introduction, a quick overview and an outline. We do want to talk a little bit about wait times. I think that is the most significant topic of conversation, quite frankly, rightfully so. And we assured the board back in August that we would come back and provide an update on kind of where we are. I'm going to go ahead and save the suspense and say we wish we had better news to share in terms of data and wait times. This is a situation where maybe unlike the previous presentations we've engaged in just today, folks are working really, really hard, both on the district side and our schools and also our partners at Jordan Driving School. But quite frankly, we just haven't seen the forward progress with the challenges that are out there with hiring new drivers and seeing that wait time being drawn down. And we'll talk a little bit about what we propose to do next as a response to that. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the enhancements and supports that we referenced back in August as well. And we will present some plans for and opportunities for expanding the program, including additional opportunities and next steps that we believe illustrate some growth and impact. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation over the next few minutes. So just to reorient you back to the fall discussion, actually August again of 2023, there were 3 areas of focus that we identified in that conversation for both the district and for our vendor to focus on in terms of improvement in areas of focus that included strengthening district and vendor monitoring of programming and related supports. Quite simply, that includes things like communications and the dissemination of information, and that was one of the areas of challenge that we identified and discussed openly with the board back in August. We'll share a little bit about some work that's been happening in that area. Still work to be done, but also we believe some progress being made. Also continuing the evaluation, when we talk about evaluation, of wait times and the backlog, constantly seeking opportunities to find ways to mitigate the challenges that, like many other areas, were born or exacerbated during the pandemic. When the program shut down almost exactly 4 years ago now, it wasn't just the shutdown period for that period of months. It was also the fact that the vendor, Jordan Driving School, like many others, lost a significant chunk of their workforce. And so they went from fully staffed at 85 to 90 instructors. They lost, I think, around a third of those, 30 or so, and they are yet to return to pandemic or pre-pandemic levels. And so that's an obvious factor in their ability to be able to serve students and families as quickly and expeditiously as we'd like them to. And we also talked a little bit back in the fall about finding ways to assist Jordan Driving School in recruiting additional drivers. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well today. So the next slide, this provides a little bit of an overview, and this is intended to be a snapshot and not by any means a comprehensive overview of wait times per se. On the left side of the column, you'll see kind of a categorization of where 25 of our largest high schools, typically that's where the wait times are most predominant. It doesn't necessarily include, I think the dozen plus or so private and charter schools, which, by the way, we also are required by law to provide services to as well. But this data focuses specifically on just Wayne County Public School System high school wait times. And what you see there, again, given the complexities, and we've got to point out, this is a point in time, and these data tend to change and fluctuate from month to month and cohort to cohort. But right now, this gives you a little bit of an overview where, and I want to call out, we said back in August, and we've been saying now for 2+ years, our ideal target wait time between the classroom portion of 30 hours instruction and the 6 hours of behind the wheel is ideally an average of 2 to 3 months. And we're not there, and we haven't been there in quite some time, despite the very best efforts of our district staff, our school staff, and lead teachers, and our vendor. But what you see here is kind of, again, a capture, a snapshot of where our schools stand. So at 5 of our schools right now, again, that's an average of 20 weeks. Obviously, that's 5 months, right? It's also an average, and so I want to be very, very crystal clear. An average, by definition, means that in some cases there may be some students at those 5 schools where it's slightly more than 5 months, and some it's slightly less. And so you're talking about closer to 6 months. again, depending on the school. Now, you will see, at least recently, in the most recent iteration of this data that Mr. Tanner and Jordan Driving School have been working hard to track, we have seen some fluctuations. So, for example, in that group of 5 schools that are at the 20-week average, one of those schools moved up to that. So they had been at 16 weeks average and it actually went backwards and moved to 20 weeks. And then 16 weeks in that category where you see most of our schools are at in that 4-month or so range. Several of those schools actually have come down a month in their average wait time. And then you see down at the bottom the group that's at 12 weeks as well. Over on the right side of the slide, you'll note, again, calling out the action steps that impact our ability to meet that ideal target average. And I'll let Mr. Tanner talk a little bit more about this side of the column, including some of the new instructors that have been brought on board. Obviously, anytime we start talking about new instructors, and I'm sure Devin will speak to this, I'm always looking to say, okay, we've hired 18 new instructors. Well, how many have we lost? And so what is the net gain or net loss? And what is the overall number of drivers, and what might that look like moving forward? So, Devin, if you'd like, you can speak a little bit to the right side there in terms of some of the actions and implications over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as Drew said, it's when I put this data together, I mean, this data is probably already, data has moved as we, I will say Fuquay-Varina is the school that went up. And so, but as of right now, we've put more resources over there to bring them down, but we have to take those resources away from another school who may then go up as Fuquay-Varina comes back down. So that's where we're at with staffing. So when we met in August, we had 56 behind-the-wheel instructors. As we sit right now, there are 56 driver instructors. However, we have put 17 through the certification process. We're waiting on the DMV to do what's called a Miller Road Test with them and issue the certificates. We're expecting them to be on the road by the end of May, beginning of June. That puts us up to our goal that we talked about last time. We wanted to have 70 or 72 by July, and so that will take us up to 72. We also have another cohort going right now as we speak with another 16. We expect that sometime by the end of the summer, DMV will have certified them. That gets us closer to our pre-pandemic number of 85. But the school system has grown since the pandemic, and so 85 or 90 probably doesn't cut it anymore. So our goal is to have 100 driving instructors by next summer. That's our goal. The schools that improved, Heritage High School, Southeast Raleigh High School, Holly Springs, and Roseville are amongst the schools that have improved. We're happy with that, but again, it's like a roller coaster. It's going to fluctuate.
So one thing that I will point out and Mr. Tanner can correct me if I'm wrong, it's important to note that even irrespective of the school system enrollment, the allotment from the state for driver education programming is based on the number of students in Wake County, irrespective of whether or not they're Wake County Public School System students or charter or private. And so that number has continued to increase, even though, as Mr. Tanner points out, the number of drivers in that same time frame has decreased, creating the obvious impacts that we're discussing. So the next item that we'll mention and just reference and going back to monitoring program efficiency around those deliverables, a lot of time has been spent in the last few months, particularly around upgrading and improving communications. I think clearly there's always room for improvement here. We still hear feedback regularly about where opportunities for improvement and growth can happen. Most importantly, we want to know, how is information being shared? Is it accessible to families? Is that information timely and informative? And we don't want websites that are out of date. And so I think more time and attention is being spent on that. But I've got to call out the fact that even as we go through, and I'll just tell you, I'll go through and randomly check websites sometimes. And by the way, not just about driver's education, but lots of things. But because those webmasters and the content is managed at the school level, and those folks are not necessarily paid a stipend and have other responsibilities, sometimes there is lag in being able to update information that's posted on our websites. But that has been something that there has been some refocused time and attention on. One area for growth that I think we've even discussed in the last couple of weeks is having a little bit more standardization in terms of what families can see, irrespective of what school website they may happen to go to. While the information needs to be timely, as you'll note, sometimes that information can vary from school to school in terms of how it's formatted and where it's accessed on the website itself. So that's something that we'll continue to work on as well. Registration dates is another thing that we've talked about in the past. I think there's been a concerted effort to more proactively and upfront communicate when sessions are available and when those registration dates are coming. It's still, quite frankly, a little bit of a race that can be frustrating for families when a student turns 14 and a half and they're eligible to sign up. Probably like some of you, we still get emails and frustrated calls at times about, they weren't able to go in right away at midnight and the class is filled up quickly. And so that's another area where we know we've got capacity that needs to be built. But again, when we don't have enough instructors to meet the demand, I want to call this out. It's not just a problem of behind-the-wheel instruction and the gap between the classroom portion. It can also be a backlog on the front end just to get in the class, right? And so it's all a function of the resources that our vendor has, the instructors that we're able to hire, and the demand that is there, both for the classroom portion and for the behind-the-wheel portion. Another area that Mr. Tanner and the vendor have talked and collaborated closely on is just the response and inquiry process. When we get a concern or a frustrated parent, or there's a specific scenario or situation that we want to be able to help resolve, there's systems now that are in place to help better manage that. And we also know and recognize that sometimes those fall through the cracks, but I think those numbers, certainly from what I've been able to ascertain, are lower than what we've seen in the past, though certainly there's still frustration anytime you've got a student that's eligible for services and they're having to wait in an extremely long line to receive those services. And I want to call out, and our board understands this clearly, this is an equity issue. And the unfortunate part of this and the side effect of this, and we're super conscientious of it, is that families that have the means potentially don't have to wait in line because they can go find other private vendors to provide instruction, right, at the cost of $400 plus or more dollars, right, and essentially get into an express lane to move around the long lines. And so that's something that continues to be a concern. It's the obvious, maybe most significant implication of some of the wait times that we're talking about. Jordan Driving School and their leadership is absolutely aware of that. And we have found them to be very responsive in our efforts to work with them to help mitigate that as much as is possible. One area that we'll mention, infrastructure is a challenge, and as Mr. Tanner referenced, as the county grows and enrollment of our high school age population continues to grow, our infrastructure has not, right? And that includes at the district level. And so in addition now to Mr. Tanner, we have begun to contract with an experienced veteran high school driver education instructor who is providing some targeted support just on a contracted basis part-time, specifically right now in the area of communications and website updates. He would be the person that often is a liaison between Mr. Tanner and schools to track down information, respond to parent inquiries or concerns. Again, as another layer of support that has not been there in the past, and that's only been in the place now since January, so we're only talking about 3 or 4 months in. So we're hopeful and optimistic that that'll be an additional piece of infrastructure at the district level to help provide support to the program across the district. And then the next to the last slide here with just a few other additional opportunities and areas for improvement that we'll call out. First of all, we do have a school-based lead teacher at every campus, as you may know, in terms of their coordination of the driver's ed program. That first bullet there just really references, I think, a desire to provide both flexibility and consistency with how students are accessing the registration process. And so, what that essentially means, and Mr. Tanner can speak a little bit more to that. In addition, when we've got kind of a first come, first serve approach, and there are so many students that are sometimes in the queue, right? What we don't want to have happen is a student who was in the queue in the last cohort who has now been shut out again because maybe they weren't able to wait up at 12:01 midnight and go in and enroll. And so that reserving of 5 spots and the manual registration is actually an ability now that we've provided to the school site to identify any students that may have fallen through the cracks or was not able to register, and there's some other extenuating circumstance that might warrant them to be enrolled in the course through no fault of their own. And Devin, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, so we've been able to tailor our online registration process where it doesn't have to happen at midnight anymore. We are enrolling kids on a staggered basis throughout the day over 3 days. There will be a half-hour window where a school can start, and then a half hour later we're opening another window for another school, and that way it keeps it from phone calls and emails from just slamming everyone at the same time, and we're not getting the circle of death because the servers are bombarded. Another thing that we're doing with regard to to figure out our equity issue we talked about, we're holding 5 registrations per class per school that the lead teachers can manually enroll a student with extenuating circumstances. That might be a student who's tried to enroll before and again couldn't do it, and we find that student. We can enroll that student. It could be a student whose parents were working during the time of the enrollment and couldn't enroll. So we have quite a few of those. We run 4 classes this summer at every one of our high schools, and every one of those classes at every one of those high schools will have the ability to manually register 5 kids themselves, kids with extenuating circumstances.
I'll let you talk a little bit about the Wake Tech part.
Okay, yeah, and we've partnered, Jordan Driving School and Wake County Drivers Ed have partnered with the Wake County Boys and Girls Club, as well as Miss Cece Hardy, who you heard from Wake Tech.
She spoke at the board podium a couple of months ago. You may recall we were able to make a connection with her.
Yeah, so the next day I reached out, and boy, we've had such great meetings since then, and what we're going to do is we're going to hold a virtual class for students that are members of the Boys and Girls Club. And the great thing is Ms. Hardy is able to find them for us, and she's already found between 50 and 60 students that are underserved, that for whatever reason they didn't have information, they don't have resources, that we can go ahead and teach now virtually and keep those kids from falling through the cracks. A lot of them are older kids, juniors and seniors, rising seniors. So we're able to get those kids and get them the driver education they need. We're going to start with a class this summer. And it will go over 2 weeks. Normally, our summer classes are 1 week. This will go 2 weeks virtually, and then we'll do another in the fall and another in the spring, so long as Ms. Hardy sees the need for the students. But we've really leaned on them for the finding of those students, and it's been very helpful for us. So grateful for that partnership.
Thank you, Devin. So the last thing we'll just mention here is that, first of all, this is not a uniquely Wake County Public School System challenge across the state. And we have been working, and Mr. Tanner has been doing this job a really long time, is actually highly regarded across the state in professional associations and with peers and colleagues. And so that is something that we see as another potential untapped resource to better collaborate and communicate with Charlotte-Mecklenburg and Guilford and Cumberland and some other peer districts, just to, again, share best practices and identify strategies that may be having positive effect in those regions where they're experiencing similar challenges that we are here in Wake County. So with that, perhaps most significantly, I think this is just a quick overview of what our proposed next steps with driver education in the Wake County Public School System will be, based on the update that we just provided and based on the kind of now longer-term context and circumstances that we've been discussing now for the better part of 4 years. We do intend to put out an RFP in the next couple of weeks to identify and procure additional supplemental driver education vendors. Some of you that were on the board may recall we did something similar about 2 years ago. We've been able to identify funding to be able to do that. Our hope and aspiration is that that can have some immediate positive impact on bringing down wait times, particularly with that gap between the classroom instruction piece and the behind the wheel. I will say this is not a panacea. This is not, I don't want to mislead. Quite frankly, there's a pool of drivers and instructors out there, and they tend to change names of hats on which vendor or which company they go work for. So they're all competing, if you can imagine, for essentially the same pool of drivers. And so we don't want to mislead and say that somehow magically by going out and get another vendor or two that it's going to fix the problem. Because in some cases what happens is when a vendor gets a contract, especially a smaller scale contract, they may need more drivers. And what we don't want to have happen is those drivers leave our current primary vendor and go work for the supplemental vendor where essentially we haven't increased our capacity at all. And so that is a challenge and a factor that has to be considered, and it's one that we don't take lightly in recommending this action moving forward. And so that said, we do believe, based on our experience a couple of years ago, that it can have positive effect. And there are, we believe, vendors out there that might be able to provide those additional services, and we certainly would like to identify who they might be through a formal RFP process that we'll initiate shortly. It is also going into June, we would plan to come back to the board either in the first or second June board meeting and request a renewal of Jordan Driving School as our primary vendor. This would be year 2 of a 3-year multi-year agreement. If you'll recall, we bid out that contract and those services fully last year, and Jordan was awarded the contract, and so we would plan to bring a renewal request to the board for Jordan Driving School for 24-25, in addition to the additional supplemental contracts that we may be able to bring in to provide that additional support beyond what Jordan Driving School can provide, at least for the foreseeable future. And then, as always, we will continue to monitor and provide the support necessary. Mr. Tanner, other than our contracted support staff that we brought in, is essentially a one-man operation at the district level and supports the work of all of our school-based coordinators and works closely with our partners at Jordan Driving School. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions as best we can that the board may have. And I will say in closing, this is just a reality, I think, of where we are in terms of marketplace and the job environment. I want to say very clearly, though, while we haven't seen the results that we want to get yet, the district, like we are in every other aspect of our programming and operation, is committed to finding ways to improve. And so with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your work. And Mr. Tanner, I remember when you first came before us last August that this was a one-man team, so I want to thank you for holding this down for the district and the work that you do. So thank you. I saw Mr. Hershey, then Ms. Mahaffey, and Ms. Coffin.
So we're looking for additional drivers. Do we coordinate or follow up with people who maybe tried bus driving but it didn't pan out for them? Because we have a lot of turnover there. I mean, hundreds.
That's data that I don't have, and I don't know where to get it, but it's an idea I've not even thought about. So thank you. I suppose I would talk with transportation about it.
And they may not be interested at all, but
yeah.
If you learn that bus driving is not for you, but they want to be engaged in the school system and with students,
gotcha.
There's a lot of applicants there.
I will tell you that another positive value add that we're hopeful and optimistic that will elicit some positive results is Jordan Driving School has now hired a full-time director of human resources who is a former leader in the Wake County Public School System in our human resources department. And so on the other side now, this individual we feel like can help tap the best of some of those practices, Mr. Hershey, when it comes to recruitment. And we're optimistic about, I don't want to give him all the credit for the additional drivers that have been hired, but that certainly is a good sign that we've been able to see an uptick since that person came into place with Jordan.
Thanks.
Ms. Mahaffey and then Ms. Caulfield.
So my question was, how does someone become a driver and how do we tell them? But it says right here, contact Mike at Jordan Driving School.
Mike Chappell at Jordan Driving School would be happy to entertain inquiries regarding interest in becoming a behind-the-wheel or classroom instructor for sure.
I'll have more questions in July when my kids turn 14 and a half and I experience this myself.
Yes, ma'am.
It's rough.
We'll be ready.
I'll send myself an email.
Ms. Caulfield?
Thank you. My first question I just want to clarify, is this we're trying to catch up to the backlog from COVID, or are we continually just always having people add to the list and we're constantly at the same spot we're at?
Yeah, so I think the best answer is probably a little bit of both, Ms. Caulfield, right? I mean, first of all, to be completely transparent, and anybody who was a parent in Wake County of a high school student before the pandemic knows well, there were wait times before the pandemic.
I was going to ask that.
Right, but they were what I think we would maybe collectively view as much more reasonable, that more 2 to 3 month time frame, that 8 to 12 week target that we talked about. Although there were times, for example, when we had a statewide driver education program shut down that created a bubble that took a year plus to get back around. But Ms. Caulfield, to answer your questions, a little bit of both, where there was a glut that built up during the time in the pandemic when everything shut down, and that included driver's ed instruction. Another component that has continued to have kind of a ripple effect is, DMV stopped certifying additional new instructors across the state of North Carolina. So even those that might have had an interest in becoming an instructor could not, which essentially dried up the pipeline of instructors. And so you had kind of this perfect storm where there was a buildup of demand based on kids who couldn't get in because of the program shutdown.
Yes.
A vendor like Jordan loses almost a third of its workforce, and now 4 years later is still not back to where their workforce was before the pandemic. So it really is an inability to catch up around that curve, but also the fact is still not having enough instructors to meet the level of demand that we have given the size of our district.
So then I have a two-part question. One, I wanted to know what is the qualifications? If that's too broad of an answer, then I guess you could answer a different way. But then the other thing is, could we have some kind of community camp catch-up? Like you mentioned, this summer, they have like a 1 or 2 week program. Can we partner with other people, and I don't know if this is possible, just trying to think outside the box, whether you have drivers in the county or police officers, or I know I love the Brakes program. I know that, it's free for them if you donate, but I mean, this is what they specialize in, is training these kids how to do that. Could we partner with people like them to help us have a big campaign of we're going to catch up and these are the volunteers that are going to come in and help us?
Yeah, so I'll respond. First of all, I think any opportunity like you just described where we can draw attention to the need and find community partners that might help us tap into additional instructors and folks that can help draw down the backlog that we're talking about, I think we're absolutely open to and will continue to explore. I'm going to defer, though, on the question to qualifications for driver's ed instructors to Mr. Tanner. And if he can't answer, then we'll find out somebody who can.
Yeah, the qualifications are that they have to go through the mandated DMV certification course, which is 80 hours. With regard to, I think it's a great idea, and I hope that in the future we can do something like this. All of those people would need to be certified through the DMV, and they aren't to teach driver education. And most of them are not. Even with their qualifications in their occupations, they are not qualified, unfortunately, to teach driver education until they go through that course.
So I've met some teachers that actually do this. So they've actually taken this 80-hour course and got certified by DMV, and then let the school know, hey, look, I can do this now. And then they help the students. Does that have that? Yep. It's a lot of hours.
So it's an 80-hour certification course, right?
Got to have a driver's license for 5 years, no felony moving violations. And
Not me.
may eliminate some folks.
No felony, but I got one.
That's right.
Chair, I want to add to this that the whole driver's education situation in North Carolina has really been a tenuous situation. That there's been a lot of debate in terms of who should own it, in terms of DMV versus what happens at the school. And so we were trying to get legislation to fix that portion. There was a lot of conversation around an online curriculum, so we had really developed a robust system, but then there were issues with whether or not how districts would be able to access that. And then now, probably within the last year, the driver's education department at DPI has essentially been gutted. And so I haven't had a chance to engage with the department in about a year in terms of where they are now. But all of those things have had a tremendous impact on driver's ed. And so as we talked about, we already had a backlog. And so I think one of the things we definitely want to push for is legislation that gives a little more control to school districts as it relates to students in the driver's ed portion, because it is something that's in the DMV shop, but we have to do it in conjunction with them. And the last thing, I don't know if they talked about, I know Dr. Wilson Norman and I were texting back and forth, but we also want people to recognize that access to our program is open to any student that lives in Wake County. And so that means that while we run this program as a school district, we also want our parents to know that if they go to one of our schools and their children are not able to get in, it's simply because you log on to that site and it's first come, first serve, and we can't deny anybody. And I don't know what number of non-Wake County.
Schools.
Yes. If they live in Wake County. So do we know the number that don't attend our schools? I don't know.
I have all that quarterly information that I give to DPI on a quarterly basis. What type of school, what grade, all of it.
This might be a topic that we bring back before, because I know we are close to time. We're a little over time, and I know Dr. Taylor took the two questions I was going to lift up, is the role that the state legislator has, and maybe this can be something we add to our legislative agenda, calling for more advocacy around this. And I guess if there's any additional questions that board members have, we can send those over to Mr. Cook.
Certainly.
And you can get them to the appropriate staff.
Certainly. And we will be back in June with the contract renewal request and information on what fruits we may be able to identify with our RFP for the supplemental vendor. So we'll be back in June.
That works. Thank you.
I just want to make one quick comment. It's very important that you explain to us about Jordan and that the driver is switching back and forth, that it's the same pool, because a lot of the emails we get are, why aren't we just getting another vendor? So that was helpful that you explained that for anybody that's listening.
And I don't want to oversimplify it, right? Certainly, we wouldn't go do an RFP unless we thought we could gain additional drivers. But there is a little bit of that crossover where essentially different companies and businesses are, you heard, an 80-hour certification course required to be an instructor. That limits the pool. But we're hopeful that the RFP and additional supplemental vendors that are out there will help us in drawing down the backlog.
Well, again, if we have any questions, I guess we can direct those from constituents to Mr. Cook, and also let them know to put some pressure on the state legislator about this, because this is just not a Wake County issue. This is a statewide issue, and God forbid when they try to get their license, the weight they're going to have for that. So thank you all. I will adjourn this main meeting, and thank you, Dr. Wilson Norman, for the great discussion, and to your team. And now, yes, we'll adjourn. Thank you.